Today we are learning about the Northern Appalachian Mountains. Here is the United States, all 50 of them that you know very well. Our first mountain range in the Northern Appalachians are the White Mountains. They range over Maine and New Hampshire. Next on our list are the Green Mountains. They go from Vermont down into Massachusetts and Connecticut. These in New York are the Adirondack Mountains. Lastly, for this week is the Allegheny Mountain Range. It is a very large mountain range within the Appalachian Mountains. It spans from New York, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Let's learn a little bit about each mountain range within these Northern Appalachians. Our first mountain range that we will be learning about are the White Mountains. Exploration of the White Mountains by Europeans began in the mid-17th century. In the late 18th century, after the Revolutionary War, settlers cleared forests for mixed agriculture and grazing, establishing farming communities with schools and stores and mills. Many of these farms, and sometimes entire communities, were later abandoned in the mid to late 19th century as farming technology changed and people moved west or to the cities for better economic opportunities. In response to abandoned or unclaimed land, large logging companies bought up farmland and woodlots, constructing logging railroads and camps and stripping much of the timber from the mountains. The unregulated practices of these logging companies caused massive forest fires and damaged watersheds vital to the industrial towns downstream, which depended on water power to run their mills. The public began to advocate protection for the forests of the White Mountains, culminating in the creation of the White Mountain National Forest in 1918. Next we have the Green Mountains. The Green Mountains are a mountain range extending from Vermont down through Connecticut, although the portion running through Massachusetts and Connecticut is often referred to as the Berkshires. All mountains in Vermont are often referred to as the Green Mountains, with some of the mountains developed for skiing and other snow-related activities, while other mountains have hiking trails. All of the major peaks can be traveled by a path called the Long Trail, which is a wilderness hiking trail that runs from the southern to northern borders of the range. Vermont not only takes its state nickname, the Green Mountain State, from the mountains, but it also is named after them. The French Monts Verts, or Verts Monts, is literally translated as Green Mountains. This name was suggested in 1777 by Dr. Thomas Young, an American revolutionary and Boston Tea Party participant. Out of Monts Verts came Vermont. The Adirondack Mountains are mostly referred to as the Adirondacks, which is a mountain range in northeastern New York. The word Adirondack is thought to come from a Mohawk Indian word that means eaters of trees. You see, the Mohawks had no written language at the time, so Europeans used various spellings of the name, including Akok, Rondacks, and Adirondacks. Still, the earliest written use was spelled Rontax in 1729 by a French missionary. This missionary, who was named Joseph Francois Leteau, explained that the word was used by the Iroquoian Indians as a bad name for another group of Indians who did not practice agriculture and therefore sometimes had to eat tree bark to survive harsh winters. Such words were strongly associated with the region. Still, they were not yet considered a proper name for the mountain range until it was officially named in 1837. Before then, it was found on an English map from 1761, labeling the area deer hunting country. Lastly, we will be learning about the Allegheny Mountains. The Allegheny mountain range posed a significant barrier to land travel in less technologically advanced eras. The Alleghenies comprise the rugged western central portion of Pennsylvania. Prior to European exploration and settlement, trails throughout the Alleghenies have been traveled for many generations by American Indian tribes such as the Iroquois, Shawnee, Delaware, Catawba, and others for purposes of trade, hunting, and especially war. As early as 1719, new arrivals from Europe began to cross the lower Susquehanna River and settled illegally in defiance of the Board of Property in Pennsylvania on unwarranted land of the northeastern drainage rivers of the Allegheny Mountains. Several Indian nations requested the removal of Maryland intruders. Some of these moved onward as territory opened up west of the Alleghenies. The first permanent European settlers west of the Alleghenies have traditionally been considered to be two New Englanders, Jacob Marlin and Stephen Sewell, who arrived in the Greenbrier Valley in 1749. They built a cabin together at what would become Marlinton, West Virginia, but after disputing over religion, Sewell moved into a tree. Lying astride the border separating the Union and the Confederacy, the Alleghenies were among the areas most directly affected by the American Civil War, which was fought from 1861 until 1865. With the further spread of the railroad networks into the 1890s and early 1900s, many new towns developed and thrived in the Alleghenies. The lumbering and coal industries that boomed in the wake of the railroads brought a measure of prosperity to the region, but most of the revenue flowed out of the mountains to the cities of the eastern seaboard, where the captains of industry were headquartered. This iniquity created a bitter legacy that would last for generations and form the foundation of the mountaineers' poverty and the area's immense environmental degradation. So those are the northern Appalachian mountain ranges. They truly are magnificent. Next week, we'll be learning about the southern Appalachian mountain ranges. Until then, for this week, work on your initial map that is zoomed in called Now Let's Trace, Shade, and Label. Then, do 2 practice maps to begin memorizing these mountain ranges. Be well, be safe, work hard. Bye-bye for now.